I'm Deb Cavanaugh. I'm a singer-songwriter living in upstate New York. I'll be including some of my original songs in this presentation. I teach an internationally renowned early childhood music program called Music Together, which is a series of music classes for families with young children. I've also taught in various schools, libraries, museums. I'm a really big believer in experiential education. I learned the importance of networking early on from my mother, who knew everyone in town, what they had to offer, and what they needed in return. She taught me the importance of keeping my eyes and ears open to opportunity at every moment. In 2007, I was asked to play the mandolin as part of a recreation of a women's orchestra that survived Birkenau concentration camp by playing for the Germans and for the inmates as they went off to work or to their deaths. At the time, I had just started playing the mandolin, but I said yes anyway. I think it's always very important to remember to say yes to opportunities and then figure out later how you're going to pull it off. I quickly learned to simplify my pieces and played Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the Blue Danube Waltz, and other classical pieces. The instrumentation was very unusual because the women in the camps had to use whatever instruments were available at the time. 2 years later, I was taken to Germany to perform this program in Berlin and at a liberation ceremony for Ravensbrück, a women's concentration camp. I live in the mountains in a country house nestled in the woods. I listen to owls serenade at night. Never thought I'd have it so good. It just goes to show you never really know what's up ahead. Just around the bend. Well, ain't life strange? Even funny. Oh, honey. Well, ain't life strange? And ain't life fine? And a little bit crazy sometimes. I live in the mountains in a wooden house. In this modern age of the internet, I have a profile on as many different social media sites as I can possibly manage. In the late spring of 2018, I was contacted by a woman who found me on the social media site Alignable. She asked if she could visit some of my classes, and I quickly agreed. The more people who know what I do, the better are my opportunities. After visiting my Music Together classes and a couple of preschool classes that I was teaching at the time, she asked me out to lunch. Again, I agreed. At the end of our lunch date, she informed me that although she was born and raised in China, she now lived full-time in the U.S. and worked at RPI. She was a co-owner of 2 preschools in China and asked if I would consider going there to teach. She then explained that I would be teaching 5 days a week for 2 weeks, all expenses paid, plus room and board and a generous hourly wage. Although I wasn't really sure if it would actually pan out, how could I possibly refuse? And so I started planning my trip. When the road takes me on to another part of the world, I cannot speak the language, but see the smile boys and girls. And I remember we're not that different. No, we all want the same old things. When the road takes me on, I can really see it's hard to fit into a brand new scene. When no one seems to know just what I mean. So I smile a lot and nod my head, wishing for my feather bed. The road will always make me start anew. Then I look for music everywhere I go. Such a fine, common language that everybody knows. We teach and we learn and we share our lives together, and the road will always come back again. When the road takes me on to another part of the world, I cannot speak the language, but see the smiles on the boys and girls. When the road takes me on, when the road takes me on. After agreeing to go on this trip, I arranged for a friend to go with me. I still didn't believe that I was actually going until I had my letter of invitation from the school and got my passport and visa all in order. We arrived in Beijing in mid-May and were met at the airport by one of the school's bus drivers who didn't speak a word of English. I'd learned very little Chinese, which is a very difficult language, and he spoke so fast anyway, I was lost in minutes. I suddenly remembered that a Chinese friend from the US had suggested that I get a translator app on my phone, which came in really handy. So on that particular ride, although the driver couldn't respond, except for nods and shakes of his head, I was able to make a little bit of small talk by typing into my phone and having the phone play a recording of what I was saying to him in Chinese. I was very thankful for that app because it just broke the ice a little bit. The ride from the airport into Gu'an was one of the wildest rides I have ever had. The traffic is crazy in China. Especially during rush hours, people turn 3 very clearly marked lanes into 5 or 6 or even 7. Everybody crowding together trying to get somewhere faster. They even use the shoulders of the road. They use their car horns often to let other cars or bicyclists or people on scooters know that they're there. But I never heard horns like in the United States. In China, they're just gentle little toots saying, hey, heads up, I'm coming your way. I never heard any of that blaring, angry horn blowing. Everyone in China was very calm. However, it was still very hair-raising for me. We were to stay at the home of the other owner of the school, a China resident, who was away on business and wouldn't be back for many days. So 2 of the school's employees were sent to take us to dinner. We were exhausted. We had just flown for 18 hours, spent at least 2 hours trying to get through customs, having to register our fingerprints with the Chinese government, do an eye scan, and all we wanted to do was get to the house and settle. But they were so excited to have us visiting, and they insisted on taking us out for traditional Chinese food. It was delicious. We ate very little, and once we got to Mr. Shu's house, we went immediately to bed. The beds, by the way, were a piece of plywood with a very, very thin mat on top. And so what I ended up doing that night after not being able to sleep was piling all of the clothes from my suitcase underneath the mattress to make it a little softer for myself. The advantage was when I woke up in the morning, all my clothes were nicely pressed. The next day was Mother's Day, which was unexpectedly to me a big holiday in China. We were taken to the nearby children's park and then on to the Beijing Zoo, where we walked and walked and walked. Almost at the very start of this day, I tripped and sprained my ankle. I tried very hard to ignore it, not wanting to ruin their welcome plans for me, but eventually I had to tell them and insist on going back. One of the things that really impressed me was the fact that although both of those places were packed with families, I never heard anyone raise their voice. Now, I have to say, the Chinese people speak loudly anyway, and so often, in a very animated way. And so often you think that they're angry and they're yelling at each other, but it's just the way that they relate to each other. And no one ever seemed to get angry with their children. They were very patient, they were all very adoring, and the children were all very respectful. If they were told not to do something or called over, they immediately responded. The next place we went to visit was the school where I was to teach. Because it was Mother's Day, they were having a special program. Some of the children even gave me the flowers that they had for their moms. Many of them were very shy, but also curious. This is the Pleasant International School located in Gu'an. The schools in China are all tuition-based, even the public schools. The more you're able to pay, the better the education for your children. This school obviously has a large tuition base. On the far right, on my left side, is the director of the school. They referred to her as kindergarten leader. On my other side is Amy and her grandmother. Amy spoke very good English. Her mother is a stewardess for an airline and often speaks English with her at home. You can see, if you look very carefully, that I'm holding a cellophane-wrapped flower that Amy had given me. Both of the Pleasant International Schools hire young interns as their international teachers. These young adults are either studying to be teachers and need to put in time as student teachers, or already have their certification and want both the experience of working in a classroom and traveling to another country. All of these interns stay for a year. The schools in China go year-round, with a few weeks at a time off in the winter and in the summer when it's incredibly hot. That surprised me. You'll notice the plants on the shelves here. At the start of each school year, each child and their parents choose a plant for the child to care for during school. This helps teach them responsibility. Each child in the school also learns traditional arts, such as Chinese dance and calligraphy. They all also learn how to do pottery on these wheels. It was really fascinating to watch their dance class. I had no idea how precise every movement and every pose is, with so much attention to detail, including facial expressions, the tilt of their head, how the fingers on each hand are positioned. There was one point at which the teacher, and I'm sure I'm not getting this right, was having the children do this when they smiled, and it was very important that they had the exact angle. And the boys had to put their hands on their hips with their hands splayed out like this. But again, it was very precise where the elbow was positioned. I just thought that was great. They also take lessons in playing the guzheng. This is a beautiful traditional Chinese instrument. You'll see that they had smaller ones available for the children to play. These are the guzheng teachers who even gave me a short beginner's lesson. I also gave them a lesson on the mountain dulcimer. In addition to the guzheng, I went to a music store in Beijing and I bought a percussion instrument called a paiban. And this was the music store owner who also gave lessons, and he was thrilled to give me a demonstration of how to play the paiban. In the mornings, every child's temperature is taken and their throats are checked before being allowed to enter the school. I think this is because China has had to deal with major virus outbreaks in the past. They had to deal with SARS and MERS. Each child in the Lang Fang school had their own cup and washcloth as well. I found the Chinese people to be very attentive to hygiene. This school had plenty of money, as I said earlier, and were able to provide all of the children with bikes to ride. Every morning, the children have choreographed exercises that are led by one of the international teachers. They also have a flag ceremony on Monday mornings. You can see that it tends to be very militaristic. The flag unit wear uniforms while everyone else stands at attention and salutes the flag. Then they all sing together. The classes take turns being the honor guard for the flag. So I was hired to teach songs and activities in English to help the children learn English in a fun way. I found their system of education to be very rigid when I arrived. The teachers were very reluctant to join in the fun, but a large part of my teaching style is getting the adults to loosen up and to model fun for the children. At first, only the international teachers joined in without reservation. But by the end of my stay, only a small fraction of the Chinese teachers remained reserved. Even some of the children were reserved at first, but it didn't take them long to loosen up. Before the end of each class, they were all smiling and laughing as we sang and danced. They especially loved throwing the scarves in the air, and when I passed out the scarves, beforehand I put a scarf over my face. They were transparent so they could see through. And after looking very puzzled and glancing at each other, they burst into peals of laughter, and I put a scarf on each child's head as they laughed. Even this little girl, who arrived at school having a terrible day and refused to even take off her backpack, eventually joined in the fun and laughed and danced with everyone else, much to the surprise of her teachers. I had been told that a normal music class consisted of the children sitting in chairs while a teacher played the piano and they all sang together. The woman who hired me realized that there's so much more to learning than that. She also confided in me that when she was growing up in China, she never experienced her parents' love. She knew that they loved them, but they never showed it in a physical way. I noticed while I was there that there was not a lot of physical affection and not a large sense of fun or play in the schools. She wanted me to model that different way of interacting. In addition to teaching the children, I also did a presentation for the parents and the teachers in both schools, explaining my teaching style and the importance of adult modeling and fun in education. Some of the Chinese teachers seemed a little surprised when the children ran up and hugged me at the end of the classes. I wasn't surprised. We ate lunch and breakfast at the schools. Every child receives free breakfast and lunch as part of their tuition. During their meals, there's classical music played. Everyone stays in their own classrooms to eat. After lunch, they all wash up and they take naps. The classical music is also played all the way through their nap time. Here's an example of some of the food that we received at the schools. In addition to teaching songs in English, I decided I really wanted to teach about traditional American culture, bringing along my mountain dulcimer, limberjack, and a crankie that I would leave with them. The mountain dulcimer and the limberjack are both traditional American instruments that I will demonstrate for you. The crankie is a traditional American folk art that goes along with music. Back when this first started, the women in the Appalachian Mountains would quilt long rolls of fabric that would depict the pictures in the song, and they would roll them along as the people were singing the song. This is a limberjack. When I was a little girl, my dad used to carve these. In addition to being popular in the Appalachian Mountains, they are also popular in Quebec. And my father carved his with a little fedora and a jacket and tie. I went down to old Joe's house, tell you the reason why. I went down to old Joe's house to eat some chicken pie. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, I'm a-going away. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, I'm a-going away. Old Joe Clark, the preacher's son, preached all over the plain. The text he ever knew was high, low, jack, and the game. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, I'm a-going away. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, I'm a-going away. You can see that the limberjack keeps the beat with his feet. And I'm not really moving him much. I'm using my hand on the board to keep the beat. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, I'm going away. When I demonstrated the crankie to the children, teachers, and even the parents at the schools, they loved it, obviously, but also they said it reminded them of a traditional Chinese folk art in which there are shadow puppets on sticks that are jointed and are often used with songs as well. One evening as the sun went down and the jungle fires were burning, down the track came a hobo hiking. He said, boys, I'm not turning. I'm headed for a land that's far away beside the crystal fountain. Come with me, we'll go and see the Big Rock Candy Mountain. In the Big Rock Candy Mountain, there's a land that's fair and bright, where the handouts grow on bushes and you sleep out every night. The boxcars all are empty and the sun shines every day. Oh, the birds and the bees and the cigarette trees, the lemonade springs where the bluebird sings in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. In the Big Rock Candy Mountains, all the cops have wooden legs. The bulldogs all have rubber teeth and the hens lay soft-boiled eggs. The farmers' trees are full of fruit, the barns are full of hay. Oh, I'm bound to go where there ain't no snow, where there ain't no rain, and the wind don't blow in the Big Rock Candy Mountains. In the Big Rock Candy Mountains, you never change your socks, and little streams of alcohol go trickling down the rocks. The brakemen have to tip their hats, the railroad bulls are blind. There's a lake of stew and whiskey too, you can paddle all around in a big canoe in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. In the Big Rock Candy Mountains, all the jails are made of tin, and you can walk right out again as soon as you are in. There ain't no short-handled shovels, no axes, saws, nor picks. Well, I'm bound to stay where you can sleep all day, where they hung the jerk who invented work in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Well, I'll see you all next coming fall in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Well, remember I told you I sprained my ankle? Eventually, I had to go see a doctor. I tried icing it. I elevated it. I had a few things that I had brought with me that were supposed to help reduce swelling. It just seemed to be getting worse and worse. And the teachers kept trying to convince me to go to the hospital, and I kept refusing. Finally, one of them asked if it was because I was afraid. I kind of laughed and said, no, I wasn't afraid of going to the hospital. I was afraid of the hospital bill that I would not be able to afford. Then it was their turn to laugh, as they reminded me that this was China, not America, and they were sure that it would be fine. So they took me to the hospital. We walked in to this little tiny building. To me, it looked like walking into a pharmacy. There were about 5 or 6 people standing around, all wearing white uniforms. The women wore those old-fashioned nurses' caps that are kind of peaked. And they all came running over to take care of me. They asked all kinds of questions. Which was my dominant hand? Did I have any sensitivities to hot or cold? They looked at my hands. They looked in my eyes. I don't even remember all the questions they asked before they eventually looked at my ankle. Then they decided what to give me. They gave me a little jar of the most foul-tasting pills I have ever had. I was to chew 5 of those 5 times a day, and 2 different sprays. By the next day, the swelling had gone down, and in a couple of days, I had no discomfort at all. And so I went to another pharmacy, and I bought some of that medicine to take home with me just in case. The entire visit, including the medicine, cost me $7 American. While I was staying in Gu'an, I learned a bit about the history. Up until a few years ago, it had been a tiny, poverty and disease-ridden village. Many of the houses had dirt floors, and the people were struggling to get by. Some developers came in with an urban redevelopment project. They razed all those buildings and built these high-rises. In doing that, they also gave all of the villagers a low-cost place to live and a job. The government makes sure that everyone has a job, whether it's planting flowers, watering the gardens, sweeping the streets, doing childcare, or different kinds of skilled labor. It seemed to me as though no one was unemployed. In the entire time I was there, and I spent time in the city as well, I saw one homeless person, and it turns out that generally the only homeless people in China are mentally ill, and many of them are taken care of in group homes, but for whatever reason, this fellow must have fallen through the cracks. As I said earlier, the traffic was crazy. There are no stoplights, no stop signs. Everyone just seems to merge safely. It was like watching a dance. In the 2 weeks that I was there, I only saw one very minor fender bender that was on a major highway. There were tons of bicycles and scooters, 3-wheeled scooters that were enclosed for the weather, like the one in this photo. By the way, notice the big brooms on the top. In the wintertime, you'll see people with quilted covers while they're riding their scooters. They have pieces that go down over their legs, and they cover their hands as well. I found it interesting that at around 11 a.m. every day, people stop working and take a nap. These folks put maps down on the sidewalk and slept for an hour. The pollution in China is so bad, they have water trucks cruising the streets, spraying water to keep the pollutants from blowing around. There were public garden displays everywhere. Many people are employed planting annuals and caring for these unique plantings. I constantly saw people watering the plants, weeding, planting, picking up trash. The parks were all well-maintained and very safe. I never worried for my safety when walking around, no matter what the time of day. I realized that it was because of the rigidity of the government and the severity of the punishments, but it was also very refreshing to not have to worry. No one locked their bikes, and everyone was very respectful. There are often people in the parks early in the mornings and in the evenings participating in choreographed dance, sometimes with live musicians, and often with recorded music. The first place that we were taken sightseeing was the Forbidden City. We went with the director of the school and one of the administrators who worked as a translator for me in the school. I wanted to choose the Great Wall because, it was the Great Wall, and everybody should see the Great Wall at some time, right? But all of my new Chinese friends, as well as the people who are living in the United States who are from China, all kept telling me, don't choose that. It's just a wall. If you, want to go for a long walk on a stone wall, then that's the place to go. But it's going to be very, very crowded. And really, it's just a wall. So I listened to them, and I chose the Forbidden City and the Summer Palace. I was really glad that I had chosen those places. They were both really spectacular. Unfortunately, it took longer than we expected to get into Beijing to see the Forbidden City. It was a Saturday. And that meant that Americans all had to get out of the car at a checkpoint and present our passports at the little administrative building. We had to do this every time we went through a toll. When I asked why we suddenly had to do this, unlike the other days we'd entered the city, I was told that Saturday was an unlucky day. Then they asked, isn't Saturday an unlucky day in America? The lines to get into the Forbidden City were quite long, and it was very crowded. It was impossible to see everything in a day. The stonework, all in marble, was just spectacular, as were the bronze statues and all the other artifacts. However, mostly the Forbidden City is filled with museums, including one with ancient clocks that I found fascinating, and another with works of art made of precious stones. I know the end is coming someday. We're all just passing through this land. I hope the end won't come tomorrow, 'cause I got some things to do before I die. I want to climb the highest mountain. I want to swim the deepest sea. I want to travel through the desert like the Sheik of Araby. I want to cross the widest river. I want to shiver at the poles. Yes, I've got some things to do before I die. I see the times they are a-changing. Seems like things are getting out of hand. But I won't be drowning in my sorrow, 'cause I got some things to do before I die. I want to climb the highest mountain. I want to swim the deepest sea. I want to travel through the desert like the Sheik of Araby. I want to cross the widest river. I want to shiver at the poles. Yes, I've got some things to do before I die. I hear the calling of the tide winds. Now that's something I can understand. I might just beg or steal or borrow, 'cause I got some things to do before I die. I want to climb the highest mountain. I want to swim the deepest sea. I want to travel through the desert like the Sheik of Araby. I want to cross the widest river. I want to shiver at the poles. Yes, I've got some things to do before I die. Yes, I've got some things to do before I die. Having been an activist for a long time, I felt as though I needed to go visit Tiananmen Square. There were memorials to the workers and monuments to the Chinese Revolution. And not surprisingly, no mention of the students who were killed during the protests there in 1989. Basically, it was just a big square with souvenir carts everywhere. Of the two tourist places, the Summer Palace was by far my favorite. It was built in 1153 originally. It's located on Kunming Lake, a man-made lake that was controversial even at its time. The lake was created in 1271 by diverting water from a spring in a small village in order to provide a stable water source for this palace. In 1860, the French and British looted the Summer Palace at the end of the Second Opium War, and on October 18, 1860, the British burned down the old Summer Palace. The destruction of large parts of this Summer Palace still evoke very strong emotions among many of the people in China. Between 1884 and 1895, the Empress Dowager Cixi at that time ordered the reconstruction and enlargement of the Summer Palace to celebrate her 60th birthday. It became her retreat until she died. She actually spent the vast majority of her time at this Summer Palace. I don't blame her. It was so beautiful and peaceful. It was shaded. There was a beautiful breeze coming off of the lake. I could have stayed there for weeks. This Buddhist temple is at the top of Longevity Hill. It's said that if you climb the 100 steps to the top, you will live at least 100 years. It was a really long climb, but it was well worth the effort. The view was spectacular, and I look forward to living at least 100 years. The Empress Cixi was quite progressive for her time. She had this gate fashioned after an Indian design. And on the other side of Longevity Hill, starting the descent, were these buildings that were a very different design. The Empress had them constructed as a nod to the oppressed Mongolians in their traditional architecture. When I walked into the main formal garden, I was expecting flowers. I was surprised. It was mostly stones and unusually shaped cypress trees, but was one of the most impressive gardens I have ever seen. As we were leaving the Summer Palace, we went to Suzhou Street. This was once a village situated on the river. Many of the original buildings survived and were rehabbed. It was incredibly peaceful and was really like stepping back in time. All in all, I loved my time in China. I would totally go back. Everyone was kind and helpful. It was the first time in my life that I was in a minority. I think I had my photo taken more during that time than the whole rest of my life. Every Chinese person I ran into, whether it was in a little shop, at one of the tourist places, just passing by on the street, they all wanted to take selfies with me. Regardless of what I might feel about the Chinese government, I gained a great respect for and fell in love with the Chinese people. My life has always been a grand adventure of twists and turns, but I've always tried to stay wide open to opportunity because you really never know when it'll come around. This was my second trip overseas for a music gig, and I look forward to the next one. I encourage you to keep your eyes wide open and accept opportunities when they come your way. It helps keep life interesting. This last song I wrote about hanging on and going for the ride. I've been very lucky in the course of my life to have had a lot of wonderful opportunities. I used to think it was luck, but people kept reminding me that I've worked really hard, meeting people, putting myself out in the world. And I do think that that's really important, because you never know who might be knocking at your door someday. Good news travels fast, and you don't know when it's coming. So you keep hanging on, waiting for that knock upon your door. For the telephone to ring, bringing good news home once more. And what a long, long, strange trip it's been. Yes, what a long, 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 strange trip it's been. Hard times keep seeping through the cracks, and you don't know when they're going. So you keep hanging on, waiting for the light to shine on through. For those gray clouds to roll away, and the skies would all turn blue. And what a long, long, strange trip it's been. Yes, what a long, 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 strange trip it's been. Seems like every time you think you know which way to go, the road keeps bringing you right back to where you started. And you don't know where you're going. I really hope you don't forget that no matter how hard things get, always stay true to yourself, and always stay true to your dreams, reaching for those things that you want. Sometimes you have to wait a long time, but I guarantee it's always worth the wait. Sometimes I'm just not sure if I'm coming or I'm going. But I keep hanging on, waiting for the world to skip a beat. So I can climb back on and try to find my dancing feet. And what a long, first trip is dead. Thanks for listening.